In the autumn of 2014, Central High School's cheerleading squad welcomed a new member, 14-year-old freshman Emma Walker. Cheerleading was not just a hobby for Emma, it was a passion. She was the type of person who naturally stood out, radiating a charm and energy that drew people to her. Her bright blonde hair and striking features only added to her allure. Early in the season, Emma's cheer routines caught the attention of a junior from her school, 16-year-old Riley Gaul. Riley, known as number 8 on the football field, was more than just Central High's wide receiver. He was a top student with a love for video games. Raised by his mother and grandparents, Riley was known among his friends as a playful jokester, though he wasn't the typical athlete. He had a nerdy, somewhat reserved demeanor. Riley introduced himself to Emma, and their connection was instant. Their relationship quickly deepened, especially after Emma introduced Riley to her parents. Her mother, Jill, found him to be exceptionally polite and likable, while her father, Mark, was impressed by his good looks and manners. They were pleased to see their daughter so happy and welcomed Riley into their home frequently. As months passed, Emma and Riley seemed inseparable. They spent their time enjoying post-game dates, dining out, and engaging in outdoor activities like paddleboarding and taking playful selfies by the lake. Emma's social media accounts blossomed with photos of their adventures, including captions that celebrated her relationship. One post featured a collage of their moments together with the caption, "Look how lucky I am." Emma even shared a picture of a new pair of trainers Riley had gifted her, boasting about having the best boyfriend. From an outsider's perspective, their relationship appeared flawless, almost enviable. However, Emma's close friends started noticing something unusual. Riley seldom interacted with them. Initially, they chalked it up to shyness, but over time, they grew increasingly concerned as they realized Riley was trying to isolate Emma. His desire for her to spend time exclusively with him became evident. Emma's friends observed Riley's behavior growing more possessive and clingy. It reached a point where he even began restricting Emma's activities, signaling a troubling shift in their once idyllic relationship. Concerns escalated among those close to her as they witnessed these changes, fearing for Emma's well-being in this increasingly controlling relationship. Over 2 years, Emma Walker and Riley Gaul evolved into what many would recognize as the stereotypical high school couple, known for their constant cycle of breakups and reconciliations. Their relationship was marked by what friends described as really dramatic arguments, frequently erupting over text messages or posts on Snapchat. It wasn't just Emma's friends who were aware of Riley's problematic behavior. Her mother, Jill, also noticed troubling signs. Riley often critiqued Emma's choice of clothing, dictating what she should or shouldn't wear. Concerned, Jill had a serious conversation with her daughter about these issues. Emma tried to reassure her that everything was fine, but the reality was far from okay. The situation only grew more intense with each passing day. Riley's behavior escalated to waiting outside the supermarket where Emma worked, staying there for hours to ensure she didn't talk to anyone else or go anywhere unexpected. Despite Emma's friends expressing their dislike for Riley and attempting to discuss their concerns with her, Emma remained dismissive of their worries. According to Emma's friends, Riley occasionally turned aggressive. He sent harsh Snapchat messages to Emma, including statements like, "I hate you, I hate everything about you," and "You're the biggest bitch I've ever come in contact with." One particular message shook Emma's mother profoundly, in which Riley wrote, "You're dead to me. I'll see your name in the obituary." Alarmed by this message, Emma's parents confronted Riley, but his response only raised more alarms. He dismissed his actions by simply stating he was just angry. This was the last straw for Jill and Mark. They decided it was time to take more drastic measures to protect their daughter. They banned Riley from their house and took away Emma's cell phone to sever their communication. However, Riley found a workaround by giving Emma an iPod Touch, which allowed her to text him via Wi-Fi. It seemed everyone but Emma could see the issues in Riley's behavior. Despite the numerous red flags, her affection for Riley blinded her to the concerns of others. She was unwilling to end the relationship just because others disapproved. Riley's pattern of sending offensive messages, followed by apologies and gifts, continued, and Emma repeatedly forgave him. By the fall of 2016, 2 years into their relationship, Emma and Riley were still together. Riley had graduated high school and was now an 18-year-old freshman at a nearby college, while Emma was a junior in high school. Despite her parents' efforts to keep them apart, their tumultuous relationship persisted. As Halloween approached that year, Emma's parents felt increasingly desperate to separate her from Riley. They decided the only solution was to ground her, limiting her outings to school and cheerleading practice only. They also began monitoring her movements. And, surprisingly, this strict approach appeared to be effective. Emma's father, Mark, noticed a positive change. She started to become more like her cheerful self again. Emma began engaging more with her family, joining them for dinner and spending time at home, away from her room. She even reached out to her close friend Keegan, informing him that her relationship with Riley was finally over. Over time, Emma recognized she deserved better, much to the relief and happiness of her family and friends. However, Riley did not handle the breakup well. In his college dorm room, overwhelmed by the loss of control over Emma, he attempted suicide by taking a mix of Vicodin pills and alcohol. Although his attempt was unsuccessful, the incident left him deeply affected, experiencing severe mood swings and expressing his depression openly among his friends. With Emma's noticeable improvement, her parents grew confident enough to allow her more freedom. By mid-November, she was permitted to socialize more freely and even attend gatherings with friends. On the evening of November 18, 2016, Emma was at a friend's house when something unsettling occurred. Around 11:30 p.m., her classmate Zach Green showed up, and Emma quickly pulled him aside. She revealed that she had been receiving ominous text messages from an unknown number. The messages were threatening, with one demanding she come outside alone to prevent harm to a loved one, and another instructing her to go to her car alone, claiming someone she loved was in danger. Emma suspected it might be a cruel prank linked to Riley, and she even threatened to call the police in response. The situation escalated as the night progressed. Another text claimed that Riley had been dropped outside. Alarmed, Emma and Zach went outside to investigate, and, to their shock, they found a body lying face down in a nearby ditch. Illuminated by the streetlight, they recognized it was Riley. As they approached, Riley lifted his head, appearing confused and disoriented. When Emma asked him why he was there, Riley responded with bewilderment, claiming he had been kidnapped and had no idea how he ended up there. His confusion and the mysterious circumstances deepened the night's tension, leaving Emma and Zach grappling with a mix of fear and concern. Emma's sense of unease escalated rapidly. Standing up, she firmly told Riley, "We've broken up. Now leave me alone." She was convinced that Riley had orchestrated this dramatic scenario as a manipulative test to gauge her reaction and determine if she still cared about him. Feeling spurned, Riley left the scene, walking alone down the street. He then called his friend Noah Walton, claiming he had been kidnapped. Riley recounted a fabricated story of being knocked out, having his car stolen, and being thrown into a van. However, Noah was skeptical and didn't believe Riley's elaborate tale. Though doubtful, Noah offered to call the police, but Riley insisted on keeping the authorities out of the situation. The next morning, Emma returned home, but her ordeal was far from over. She texted her friends in a panic, claiming a stranger dressed in all black was repeatedly ringing her doorbell, and she feared for her life. In a moment of desperation, she also reached out to Riley, texting, "I hate you, but I need you right now." He responded almost instantly, assuring her, "I'm coming, I'm speeding, just give me a minute." Emma had planned to meet up with her mother Jill that morning, but when she failed to show, Jill returned home to find Emma and Riley in the front yard. Seeing Riley, who was explicitly banned from the property, Jill demanded he leave. And he complied. Once Riley left, Emma tried to explain his presence, visibly shaken, suggesting she feared a burglar or a stalker might be involved. However, Jill was skeptical, questioning the coincidence of Riley's involvement in both unsettling events. Emma, still in denial, insisted, "No, it wasn't him, Mom. It wasn't him." Jill saw through Riley's actions, recognizing them as desperate attempts to force communication with Emma, crossing boundaries in the process. By this point, both Jill and Mark were deeply concerned for their daughter's safety, accompanying her to and from work that Sunday to ensure her protection. By Sunday night, life at the Walker household seemed to return to a semblance of normality. Emma chatted with her friend Keegan about a homework assignment before going to bed just after midnight. However, the tranquility was shattered early Monday morning on November 21st, 2016. Jill entered Emma's room around 6 a.m. to wake her for school, calling her name. There was no response. Emma remained eerily still and lifeless in her bed. As Jill approached and saw something terribly wrong with Emma's face, panic set in. She checked for a pulse but found none. Frantically, she called 911. When the police arrived at the Walker home, it was immediately clear that Emma Walker had passed away. Knox County Sheriff's Deputy Nikki Buells noted that the initial call was reported as a possible suicide. When Deputy Nikki Buells arrived at the Walker residence, her initial task was to document the scene. She meticulously photographed both the exterior and interior of the home. It wasn't until she entered Emma's bedroom that she uncovered a critical piece of evidence, a small hole in the wall that seemed to be from a bullet. This discovery led Buells to immediately suspect that Emma's death was not a suicide. Shortly after, Lieutenant Alan Merritt of the Knox County Sheriff's Department joined the investigation. He, too, began by examining the outside of the house, where he noticed another bullet hole, this one approximately shoulder height. These holes were small, roughly the size of a ballpoint pen, and initially not very noticeable. As he continued his inspection around the property, Merritt found 2 shell casings and a second bullet hole on another side of the house, positioned at a similar height to the first. Further investigation revealed a tragic truth. Emma had been fatally shot in the head, with 2 bullets fired into her bedroom from outside her family's single-story house. One bullet had struck her behind her left ear, while the other had lodged in her pillow. The scene was declared a crime scene, and Emma's parents, Jill and Mark, were asked to step outside as detectives took over. As the police began interviewing Emma's friends and family, one name repeatedly surfaced: Riley Gaul. The community was shattered by the loss. The night following her death, a candlelight vigil was held at Central High, and Emma's cheerleading squad released balloons in her memory during that week's Bobcats football game, creating a poignant tribute to their fallen friend. Concern grew among Riley's friends as well, particularly after they learned about a troubling confession. The day after his supposed kidnapping, Riley confided in his friend Alex McCarty. He revealed he had stolen his grandfather's gun out of fear for his life and had shown it to McCarty. While McCarty worried Riley might harm himself, Riley insisted he was not suicidal, but terrified of unspecified threats against him and Emma. Another friend, Noah Walton, disclosed to detectives that Riley had inquired about removing fingerprints from a gun, adding another layer of suspicion. During questioning, when asked about his activities in the 72 hours following Emma's murder, Riley claimed to have spent the night at Noah's house, trying to piece together a coherent alibi. The investigation deepened as detectives worked to verify his statements and understand the events leading to Emma's tragic death. During his 2-hour interrogation by the police, Riley Gaul referred to Emma Walker impersonally as the girl. When pressed by detectives about which girl he meant, he chillingly responded, "The one that passed away." This manner of speaking about someone with whom he had been intimately involved for 2 years struck the detectives as particularly strange and detached. Detective James Hurst noted, "I sensed a dark side to him. He seemed devoid of any real passion or concern." Riley claimed he had attempted to communicate with Emma over the weekend, but she was unresponsive. He recounted that she finally agreed to speak with him only if he would write a paper for her. According to Riley, he called her using a friend's phone on campus Sunday night, but the conversation went poorly, with Emma allegedly hurling insults before blocking him. Riley continued his narrative, stating that after the phone call, he briefly visited his grandparents' home and then returned to his college. Overwhelmed by the breakup, he broke down and wept for several hours in his car. However, Detective Hurst observed that Riley appeared emotionless while recounting these events during the interrogation, noting that his demeanor felt disconnected and almost rehearsed. Complicating matters further, Riley's grandfather had reported a 9mm handgun missing from his car before Riley was brought in for questioning. When detectives inquired about the gun, Riley denied any knowledge of its whereabouts, refuted claims that he had shown it to his friend Alex McCarty, and also denied asking another friend, Noah Walton, about how to remove fingerprints from a gun. After leaving the sheriff's office, McCarty revealed that Riley began bombarding him with text messages, questioning why he had told the police about the gun. Riley also implored his friends not to speak with the police anymore. Sensing Riley's deceit, Walton and McCarty decided to cooperate with the police in setting a trap. The plan was set into motion on Tuesday night, merely a day after Emma's murder. Detectives equipped the two teenagers with microphones, a transmitter to allow police to listen in, and a video camera hidden in a key fob. Despite the risks, Walton and McCarty were resolute in their decision to assist. The police briefed them on the dangers, but they were adamant about helping to retrieve the possible murder weapon and play a part in the unfolding investigation. Alex McCarty drove to Riley Gaul's house with a clear purpose. He confronted Riley, asserting that if he was innocent, he shouldn't hesitate to produce the weapon. McCarty bluntly asked, "What happened to the gun you showed me?" Riley casually replied that he had returned it to his grandfather and assured Alex there was nothing to worry about. To capture Riley's responses, the police had equipped McCarty's car and the cuff of his jacket with microphones, hoping to gather enough evidence to arrest their prime suspect. The sting operation was a success, and Riley was arrested later that night. The plan involved inviting Riley over to Noah Walton's house under the pretense of playing video games. During their meeting, Riley began instructing his friends on what to tell the police, suggesting they claim they were under the influence of LSD during their initial statements. "You were drunk and you were high, your mind was altered. Whatever you told them wasn't clear," he advised, hoping to discredit their earlier testimonies. Riley then proposed a trip to the Bluffs, a wooded area by the Tennessee River popular among local teens for secluded gatherings. He planned to dispose of the gun by throwing it into the river. The trio set off in McCarty's car, making a brief stop at Riley's stepfather's house. Riley claimed he had hidden the gun in the basement there and emerged with a trash bag, which he said contained the weapon. To maintain a relaxed atmosphere, McCarty and Walton cracked jokes, sang along to the radio, and stopped to pick up their favorite fast food. Unbeknownst to Gaul, Lieutenant Steve Sanders from the Knox County Sheriff's Office was closely following them in an unmarked SUV, supported by two other undercover vehicles. The officers kept in constant communication with McCarty and Walton through group texts. As the journey progressed, McCarty finally caught sight of the gun inside the bag and exclaimed in shock, "Oh my God, that is a real gun!" Walton immediately gave the prearranged code word, prompting the police to swoop in. Within 90 seconds, officers arrived at the scene and arrested Gaul. In addition to the firearm, the police discovered other items they considered critical evidence, including gloves and black clothing. These items led authorities to suspect that Riley was also the mysterious man dressed in black, who had appeared at Emma's doorstep the Saturday morning before her tragic death. During the May 2018 trial, Riley Gaul's defense team presented their case, arguing that Riley had not intended to kill Emma, but had instead fired the gun merely to frighten her and capture her attention. They suggested that his actions were in response to Emma reaching out to him that Saturday morning, portraying Riley as someone trying to prompt her to rely on him as her protector once more. After deliberating for 5 hours, the jury, unpersuaded by the defense's argument, convicted 19-year-old Riley of first-degree murder, along with charges of stalking, theft, reckless endangerment, and possessing a firearm during the commission of a dangerous felony. At his sentencing hearing, Riley, who had remained silent throughout the trial, finally spoke. He issued an apology to Emma's family for the irreversible harm he had caused. yet he maintained that the shooting was accidental. "I wanted to scare her," he confessed. "I never meant to take Emma's life. Again, I am sorry." In Tennessee, the law mandates a life sentence for anyone convicted of first-degree murder. Consequently, Riley Gaul received a life sentence but will be eligible for parole after serving 51 years, meaning he could potentially be released at the age of 71. He is currently serving his time at the Northwest Correctional Complex, a state prison located in Lake County, Tennessee.